The 72-hour military operation that was meant to crush Ukraine is sputtering. Thus far, Putin's vaunted summer offensive has captured just 1/4% of Ukraine's landmass, and Russian casualties are now estimated at over 1 million and rising. What went wrong? Well, I'm former SEAL Team 6 Squadron Leader Chuck Pfarrer, and today we'll take a deep dive into the root of Russian problems: rock bottom morale. So join me at the Kyiv Post, Point of Impact. In the blood-soaked fields near Chasiv Yar, a shocking event has laid bare the rot at the heart of Russia's military machine. A platoon from the Russian 20th Combined Arms Army was ordered to conduct a daylight frontal assault without artillery or combined arms support. The troops protested, but the order stood. It was a suicide mission, pointless and with zero chance of success. Squad leaders argued with the platoon commander, but to no avail. Faced with certain death, they did the unthinkable. They mutinied, killed their own officer, and surrendered en masse to Ukrainian forces. This incident, reported by Ukrainian military intelligence and corroborated by multiple sources, is not an isolated act of desperation, but a symptom of a broader, catastrophic collapse in Russian morale and combat effectiveness. The war in Ukraine, now grinding into its fourth year, has exposed the Russian military as a hollowed shell, bled dry by staggering losses, crippled logistics, and a leadership culture steeped in corruption and incompetence. The numbers are grim. Russia is hemorrhaging nearly 1,000 soldiers daily. The equivalent to 2 battalions of infantry are wiped out every 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In 2025 alone, Russian casualties are approaching 250,000, 250,000 dead in just 6 months. These are not just numbers. They represent a generation of Russian soldiers thrown into a meat grinder, their lives squandered in poorly planned, poorly led assaults. The mutiny and surrender at Chasiv Yar is a microcosm of Russia's unraveling war effort. The Chasiv Yar attack was fairly standard, disorganized, predictable, and irrational. Ordered to charge Ukrainian defenses in broad daylight across open ground without cover or even basic coordination, the attack was worse than pointless. Videos posted by Russian troops, and there are hundreds circulating on Telegram and other platforms, reveal a litany of complaints: no food, no water, no medical care, and no hope. Russian soldiers speak of being sent on suicidal missions, of commanders who lie about objectives, and of a war they no longer understand. These men, pushed beyond endurance, are increasingly turning on their officers as a last resort. What drives such desperate acts? Well, the answer lies in the toxic stew of Russian military dysfunction: crushing casualty rates, logistical collapse, incompetent leadership, and a pervasive sense of abandonment. Russian troops, many of them conscripts or minimally trained volunteers, are sent into battle with little preparation, less training, and inadequate support. Social media is awash with videos of Russian soldiers, haggard, filthy, demoralized, complaining of non-existent supplies, no medical care, and orders that amount to suicide missions. These are not mere gripes. In any Western army, such public dissent would be deemed insubordination and a mutinous assembly. Both are capital crimes in times of warfare. Yet in Russia's army, these cries are a daily occurrence, a testament to a force that has lost its discipline and its will to fight. Morale is the root cause. Combat effectiveness is the symptom. And Russian combat performance is abysmal. On 14 August 2024, during Ukrainian operations in Kursk Oblast, SBU forces received the surrender of 102 Russian soldiers, more than an entire infantry company, marking the largest single surrender of Russian troops in the Ukraine war. This company gave up, but some units might have done better if they just stayed home. In 2023, Russia's 104th Guards Airborne Division, one of Putin's top-tier parachute divisions, found it had met its match in Kherson Oblast. The 104th Airborne, numbering around 10,000 troops, was assigned to seize Krinky, a small village on the south bank of the Dnipro River near Kherson. Another example is even larger. Russia's 41st Combined Arms Army operating around Pokrovsk. So how's it been going? Well, the 41st, their losses are described as catastrophic, with more than 8,625 killed, 10,491 missing, and 7,846 deserters as of June 2025. Ukrainian estimates, backed by Western analysis, peg Russian losses at 430,790 in 2024 alone, with daily casualties averaging 1,180 and spiking to 2,200 during intense assaults. These are daily losses. Putin's special military operation has suffered 5 times as many deaths in Ukraine as all Soviet and Russian wars combined since World War II. So let's put this in historical perspective. In just the first 6 months of 2025, Russia has sustained 4 times more casualties than all of the German combat losses in 3 years of Rommel's defeat in North Africa. 4 times more. These losses are not sustainable, even for a nation with Russia's population. No country in military history has ever won a war by losing 2 battalions of men every day. The human cost is matched by staggering material losses. Since the full-scale invasion, Russia has lost over 11,000 main battle tanks, more than 23,000 armored vehicles of all types, and more than 30,000 artillery tubes, including rocket, self-propelled, and towed artillery systems. Ukrainian drones, artillery, and HIMARS strikes have turned Russian equipment into smoldering wrecks, with ratios of losses favoring Ukraine by as much as 5-1. Again, morale is a factor. Many Russian troops have ceased to care. In one stunning example, a Russian S-300 anti-aircraft system was deliberately positioned in an open field, its crew making no effort to camouflage the launchers or sensors in the open, in daylight, with zero concealment. Ukrainian HIMARS rockets obliterated the system within hours, suggesting either gross incompetence or intentional sabotage by a Russian crew unwilling to die for a lost cause. Russia's logistical failures are a death knell for its war effort. The Kremlin supply chain, already strained by sanctions and mismanagement, has buckled under the demands of a prolonged war. Fuel, ammunition, and spare parts are in critically short supply, leaving frontline units stranded. Reports from Russian military bloggers and prisoners of war paint a dire picture. Wounded soldiers die waiting for evacuation due to lack of transport. Units are forced to scavenge for food, fuel, and water. Donkeys deliver ammunition to the front if they arrive at all. The reliance on minimally trained conscripts, logistics units, where morale is notoriously low, have created a snowball effect, crippling frontline operations. This logistical collapse exacerbates the losses in Russia's poorly planned assaults. Without artillery or air support, infantry is sent into Ukrainian kill zones, where drones and precision-guided munitions exact a devastating toll. The abandonment of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and infantry fighting vehicles is endemic. A standard Russian practice is to leave vehicles in the open, with their hatches open, so Ukrainian drones can easily drop explosives inside, ensuring Russian crews will not have to fight. These acts of sabotage by Russian troops are not just tactical failures, but a silent rebellion against a system that treats them as expendable. The loss of senior Russian officers is another nail in the coffin. Due to Russia's micromanagerial leadership style, senior officers are forced to deploy closer to the front to micromanage green units, and these Russian officers are falling at an alarming rate. Ukrainian intelligence rapidly locates field headquarters and responds with precision strike munitions. This leadership crisis is compounded by systemic corruption. Vladimir Putin's regime has fostered a military culture where loyalty to the Kremlin trumps competence. Generals and colonels run rackets, demanding bribes to spare soldiers from assaults or falsifying reports to pocket the pay of dead soldiers. Russian military bloggers, who are often pro-war, decry a culture of meat assaults and commanders who hide in rear bunkers while their men die. This betrayal is not lost on the troops, who see Russian leaders as con men, unfit to command. Desertions are rampant, with over 5 full divisions, 50,000 Russian soldiers presently on the run, having abandoned their units. These are the Kremlin's own numbers, leaked by Russian Ministry of Defense data. Putin's refusal to rotate units, leaving soldiers in combat for months or even years, has shattered their will to fight. The Chasiv Yar mutiny was a stark example of this collapse. When soldiers turn their weapons on their own officers, it signals the sort of breakdown in discipline that no army can survive. In Western militaries, such acts would be prosecuted as capital offenses, but in Russia, they're merely a symptom of a deeper and more dangerous malaise. Kremlin propaganda, which paints the war as a noble special operation, has failed to mask the reality. Russian soldiers are dying for a regime that cares nothing about their lives. While Russia's army crumbles, Ukrainian forces are capitalizing on that weakness. In Chasiv Yar, Ukrainian defenders have used drones, artillery, and HIMARS to devastating effect, turning Russian assaults into slaughter. Russia's war in Ukraine is a slow-motion disaster. The staggering casualty rates, the logistical collapse, and the loss of competent leadership all point to an army on the verge of collapse. And trust me, the Russian army in Ukraine will inevitably collapse. Russian soldiers, abandoned by their leaders and betrayed by their system, are voting with their feet, surrendering, deserting, and sabotaging their own equipment. As Russian morale and combat efficiency erode, Ukraine's defenders stand ready to exploit every weakness. The question is not whether Russia's army will break, but when, and how much more blood Vladimir Putin is willing to spill before admitting defeat. For the Kyiv Post, I'm Navy SEAL Chuck Pfarrer, and I'll see you again at the point of impact. Thanks, everybody. That's the end of Clip 2. Thank you very much for your kind work, and straighten that tie. Thanks again.